Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, we began combat activities in Afghanistan on October 7, 2001. Since then, 1,395 combat troops have been killed, 9,771 have been injured. We began combat activities in Iraq on March the 20th, 2003. Since that time, 4,432 men and women in combat have lost their lives, and 32,539 have been injured. The total, 5,827 killed, 42,310 injured. That's a pretty staggering toll, isn't it? It's a lot of people. That's a lot of injuries and a lot of deaths. But it's war. And war is a brutal activity. So we accept it as a brutal activity. Now let's take a look at this chart. This chart depicts gun casualties in the United States. In red are kids. Kids who have not reached the age of 20. In black, everybody. What this chart reflects is that we've experienced 2,200 homicides, 700 suicides, 150 accidents, 25 deaths by police intervention, and 60 others, for a total of 3,000 deaths among children under the age of 20. For everyone, the statistics are this. We've experienced 12,650 deaths, 17,350 suicides, 600 accidental deaths, 350 died by police activity or intervention, and another 275 died. The total, 31,225 deaths. The total injured people by gun violence in this country, 66,750. Now, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters, the striking thing about that statistic is that it isn't 8 years. The striking thing about that statistic is that it is every year. Every single year. That's the toll of gun violence in this country. Now, one of the things that we've listed here are suicide deaths. Some people may say suicides are maybe the one thing that a person does when he somehow has a mental strike of realism, and so he's decided to end his own life. There are no victims, I suppose, in suicide deaths. Those of you who say that weren't members of this club in the early 70s when we had a treasurer whose name was Fred Joyner. Fred was in his middle 30s. He was a successful attorney. He became the part of an investigation over arson in a building that was across the street from E&I. He went home, took a gun, and blew half his head off. No victims? When do you think his parents got over it? The answer is when they died. That's when they got over it. I have a friend whose name is Catherine. Catherine and I and another person meet on a regular basis talking about a variety of things. She experienced when she was growing up the fact that her mother also committed suicide. I asked her, when do you get over it? And she said, never. That's when you get over it. You don't. You don't get over it. So gun casualties include suicides, and they take their toll just like all the others, take their toll. But we aren't without any ability to do anything about this situation. Two things we can do. Two things we can do now. One of the things we can do is to end the gun show loophole. The gun show loophole is the fact that a person can go to a gun show and avoid any registration, any background check by going to a desk that is marked for private sales, and there is no background. So anybody who is a felon, anybody who's been convicted of domestic violence, anybody who is as crazy as that guy in Tucson, Arizona, can get a gun, no problem. This loophole doesn't make any sense, and it should be ended. The next thing that we can do is to enact reasonable laws and regulations about these weapons that are so terribly destructive, automatic weapons. These magazines that hold 10, 15, 20, 25 clips, these automatic weapons that were banned but are not anymore, that were banned under the weapons laws that existed in 1995 through 2004 but aren't anymore. We can reenact that law to protect people from what happened at Virginia Tech, and to protect people from what happened at Tucson, Arizona, and to protect people from crazies doing crazy things. Because that's what this is all about. And we are not powerless. We hear some slogans like, for example, guns don't kill, people kill. Is that a fact? Do we apply the same to cars? Cars don't kill, drivers do, so we shouldn't regulate them? We shouldn't control when a driver drives drunk or when there's an open container in a car? Of course not. We hear this, take guns from citizens and only criminals will have guns. Now, isn't that crazy? Are we going to take guns away from the police? Of course not. Are either one of these acts designed to take guns from law-abiding citizens? The answer is no, they aren't. So I say to you that there are horrific events that occurred in Virginia Tech, Fort Hood, Tucson, Arizona. There's a tragedy at the Tampa Police Department, at the St. Pete Police Department in Miami. But they're just a dot in the tapestry of gun violence. Just a small dot. The real issue is right here. 31,225 every year. 3,000 under 20 years old every year. Those are the tragedies, and we can do something about it. Mr. Toastmaster.